Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have all of you join me to talk about how your branding can evolve. I know one of the things that is just so real for me right now is that I am actively thinking about how our brands can be thoughtful and smart and conscious of what's going on in our world. And, this is one of those moments in time where we really are asking ourselves a question: how can our branding evolve to be supportive of our communities and all communities? And so today I am really going to talk about some of the strategies and tactics that we use to help our clients and our colleagues understand how their branding can evolve as they move forward. But I want you to know that at any point today, I left a sticky note here that just says, if you want to share one thing that you wish would change or evolve about your brand, we can certainly talk about that together and use that as a framework for discussing how we can move your brand in the right direction. I always like to start these sessions with a goal. I think having a goal for our conversation today and the things that you're going to get out of this conversation need to be clear. And so my goal is to inspire you to try new things with your entire marketing department, because when we try new things, we actually start the momentum of change and evolution inside of our brand. And most importantly, I need to know if there is something that you wish you could change about your brand that we can do together and talk about how we can move your marketing department forward with that. A little bit about me. I am the co-founder and CEO of Soona, but prior to founding Soona, I started a production company called Mightier. I worked in production for more than a decade, working on a lot of different television programs as an editor and a field producer, and was really fortunate to win an Emmy for my work on a program I did with PBS. One of the most important things to know, though, about my career is that I stumbled into branding and marketing by accident. I have no traditional training in branding and marketing. I have no traditional training in advertising. I really have been focused from the very beginning on storytelling. And I tell you this in part to tell you that so many folks, I think, feel paralyzed or like they cannot move forward because they don't have the information or they don't have the training or the tools that they need to successfully evolve their brand. I'm here to tell you that you have the tools. All you need is innovation and a willingness to be creative and the drive to try new things. And so I always tell people that as a hopeful opportunity to hear that you too can do this. I have a quote on my wall in the office that I think will really help you guys understand the framework of our tools today. Performance doesn't exist without brand, and brand doesn't exist without performance. What does this mean? What it means to us is that you can put a lot of media out in the world. You can create a lot of content for your brand. And a lot of folks will never even know it exists because it doesn't connect to a core message. It doesn't connect to a core theme. A brand at the end of the day is a shared idea or message that connects to iconography. So if you think about a Nike logo, the core message of just do it connects to that iconography. If you think about brands like Casper mattresses, their message of getting better sleep is connected to that C that you see. And so it's that connection between a message and iconography that really helps us understand a brand. But if your performance of getting that message out there, if your media creation doesn't actually support that brand, then you're not going to get the movement that you want, and vice versa. If your brand doesn't have media spend, if your brand doesn't have some engagement online, if your brand isn't actively talking to folks every single day in many different channels, your brand also won't perform. And so these two things are interconnected, and we must always remember how they play together. I invite you to think about some of the brands that you have thought about in your own exploration, and the brands that you think are bad, the brands that you think don't have effective messaging, the brands that you think maybe are competitors of yours that have been unsuccessful in getting their message out. And I ask you to think about what stories they're telling and if their stories are resonant or not, and what things they have in common with you. One of the equations that I use often inside of our business is bad stories plus bad brands will harm our spend. And all that means is that if our message isn't effectively aligning to our brand, it's going to harm our spend. And if our brand isn't effectively aligning to our message, that will also harm our spend. These things work together in harmony. To get success, we must have a smart spend. We must have a smart spend that really is thoughtful about where people are going, that's targeted to the right people, that allows us to get conversion. One of the things that I think is a key point of differentiation when you're trying to evolve your brand is not spending money too early on things that you're not sure are actually working. So hyper targeting your media spend will actually allow you to understand, is this helping our brand or is this not helping our brand? I give you this as a framework for thinking about the 3 questions to truly test your brand as you think about evolving it, because these frameworks help us understand if we're moving in the right direction, if we're moving towards progress, and if we are moving towards evolution. So the 3 questions are where we're going to spend the majority of our time today. But before I move forward into these 3 questions, I really want to again offer you the opportunity to share one thing you wish could change about your brand. You can use the Q&A feature to submit your anything you wish you could change. It could be, I'd love to see our logo evolve, or I think our colors aren't effective, or we don't have any brand ambassadors and I wish that our brand had more brand ambassadors. Any of those things are things that you can share, and I'd be happy to include those questions and those concerns in the dialogue that we're having here today on the questions to truly test your brand. So the first question I want you to ask yourself is, what percentage of the time do you choose safe over risky as a brand? So in your marketing department, really take a minute to reflect on your social media, your advertising, your website, your messaging, your email marketing, and any kind of communication. Could be print collateral, anything you have out there in the world that would potentially tell you, what percentage of the time do we choose safe over risky? Just write down that percentage. We're going to come back to that later, but and really analyze what that percentage means. The second question I want you to ask yourself, how many new audiences have we attracted in the last year? This is a powerful, powerful question, because it really gets to this question of, are we just talking to the same people over and over again with this brand? Are we not evolving towards new audiences? Are we not capturing new voices? So I really want you to think down, how many new audiences have we attracted in the last year? So if in 2018, maybe you had 4 core audiences, what is that number in 2020? Is it up or down? Is it exactly the same? The third question I want you to ask yourself is, when was the last time we had a breakout hit or a viral moment as a brand? And we know what these look like. This could be a press mention that really moves the needle, that a lot of people are talking about on social media. This could be perhaps an ad campaign that has an incredibly successful percentage of people clicking through. It could have a really high click-through rate, or perhaps it has a really low CAC. Maybe your customer acquisition costs are really low on that one. So when was the last time you had a breakout hit or viral moment? It could also be, and this is a really important distinction to make here, it could also be asking yourself, did a customer leave us a review, or did a customer mention us on social media in a way that really connected with a lot of other audiences? Did we see a lot of new audiences coming in, or new conversions, or new attention because we had this breakout moment with audiences? And I'm mostly talking about online, because really this is where we're focusing so much of our energy today. So when was the last time you had a breakout hit or viral moment? And just, I want you to do 2 things as you reflect on this. I want you to write down, what was the hit? What was the piece of content? Was it a blog post? Was it a piece of traditional media outreach? Was it an email campaign? Was it an ad campaign? And then I want you to write down, what were the results of that breakout hit? What were the things that happened for you as a brand because you moved the needle on that? Okay, now that you've taken a moment to really think about those 3 questions, I want to tell you that I've used these 3 questions helping brands take bigger, bolder moves and evolve their brand over the last 7 years running my 2 businesses. And of the over 200 clients I've worked with, when we go through these questions together, 95% chose safe. And the reason that 95% chose safe is because it feels like it's the right decision. But actually, that choosing safe is preventing you from being able to get more data and more information about what your clients believe about your brand. And it's actually preventing you from understanding how number 2 and number 3 can be effective for you. These are interconnected questions, in case you didn't catch on to that already. And when we choose something safe, we often are just speaking to the same audiences over and over again. So for your organization, what is that percentage of time that you choose something safe or that you choose something risky? And that question that I pinned at the top of this conversation about sharing one thing that you wish you could change about your brand, when I walk away from many conversations with the brands that we work with, the one thing they often tell me they wish they could change is the percentage of times that they take a risk, the percentage of times that they go out on the ledge and do something bold. And so that might be the thing that you take away from here today and say, we are going to change our equation and we're going to take risks 10% of the time, or we're going to take risks 20% of the time. And we're going to see how that connects to our progress. Because the second question on this list is, how many new audiences have you attracted in the last year? And my guess is that if your number is 0, you haven't been taking enough risks to evolve your brand in a new direction. And so for the clients that I talked about, the 200 that I've taken through this process, don't feel alone if you've only gained 1 new audience in the last year. This is normal. 9 out of 10 of our customers have only gained 1 new audience in the last year. But as we just discussed, they're not taking many risks. And so the question that I would ask you is this the KPI that you'd like to see? Inside of your organization, do you want to be at about 1 new audience a year? Or would you like to be at more than that? So really ask yourself, if I was to walk away from this conversation today and say, every year we want to gain at least 2 new audiences, that means you probably need to be taking about twice as many risks as you are right now in your marketing collateral. You need to be doubling the amount of media that you're putting out there that could potentially help you gain those new audiences and capture new attention. This is the one that I think always sticks with me. When was the last time that we had a breakout hit or a viral moment? 100% cannot remember. And so if that is you, if you're sitting here and you're saying, Liz, I literally cannot remember the last time our brand had a breakout hit, then I really want you to focus on, what does that feel like? What is the emotion that you experience knowing that you're not getting that virality, knowing that you're not getting some organic reach in that way? And second to that, I want you to seriously consider if that is something that can organically be true for your organization. One of the biggest pieces of pushback that I've received in my years as a branding, marketing, accidental expert is that, Liz, our brand is not well suited to these viral moments. Our brand is not well suited to breakout hits because we're in SaaS, or we're in software, or we're in professional services. Here's the truth. Limiting your belief that you can't have a breakout hit or a viral moment simply because you're in a services industry, or simply because you're not in a traditionally targeted industry for these categories, is actually probably the thing standing in your way of being able to do that. Some of the ways that you might be able to get some breakout hits for your organization are through thinking about using a platform such as Twitter, or using a platform like LinkedIn to advance the thought leadership of your executive team, to use moments in the news or moments that are happening in our world to really leverage the stories that are out there and tell personal and intimate stories about the work that you do to move the world forward. One of the clients that we work with is Adobe Government Services, and we often tell the stories of the families and the communities that are impacted. And those types of stories of families and communities impacted by software enhancements have that potentiality to be breakout hits. Your brand probably has those too. It's okay if you can't remember. It's okay if you aren't sure. You can find that opportunity, but only if, and this is why I say these 3 questions are interconnected, if you have gained 0 new audiences in the last year and you've taken 0 risks, you've probably had 0 breakout moments. So just remember that These are interconnected questions, and I want to push you to think about how you can take risks. So, why does this happen? Why do brands have a hard time evolving? And why do brands have a hard time making movements in organic ways to grow audience and get additional attention? And I often find that 100% of us are doing what we know. We have a playbook and we have a process and we have an approved marketing plan that we just execute repeatedly over and over and over again. And the challenge with that, and the challenge with all of this, is that when you do what you know, you actually can't find new audiences to connect with. So this is the second quote that hangs on my wall, and it's something that I also would encourage you to screenshot and use inside of your organization, is simply, evolution requires experimentation, and experimentation creates evolution. So if you want to reach new audiences and you want to take more risks, you're going to need to experiment. And if you are willing to do so, you will hopefully see some evolution inside of your brand. So let's talk about how you can do that. This is the pie chart that we use with almost all of our clients to ask them, what is your current risk alignment? What amount of risk are you willing to take inside your brand so that you can evolve and so that you can actually move the needle forward towards additional customer acquisitions? And often this pie chart doesn't look anything like this. Often the pie chart is about 50% paid and about 10% events and about 30% social media with a little sliver for publicity and no experimentation built into the spend or into the plan whatsoever. This pie chart can give you a starting point for your marketing department to really think about, how do we evolve our brand internally? So the pies are simply these 5 things: social content, paid media spend, publicity, events, and experimentation. Setting aside some of your funds to try new things and to put some intention behind not doing business as usual is baked into this modern spend test. And how you actually go ahead and try this and see if this is something that can work for your brand and actually move the needle forward is just a couple simple steps. First, I want you to change your spends according to equal distribution for just 1 month. Take out your next month. June right now, we're in the middle of it. So maybe you're looking ahead to July. I want you to look at July and I want you to look at the plan, and I want you to think about how that plan can actually implement some of these pieces. How can you maybe equally distribute more attention to your social, to your paid, to your experimentation? The second I want you to do is to shift your social to storytelling oriented content, to really think about, how do I tell the story of my brand or of my customers or of our impact together? And the way that we do that is we have a step 2 of just always putting intention behind telling a story. Here's one of the tests that we use internally at our company. We will always say, does this have a beginning and a middle and an end? Does this caption have a beginning, a middle, and an end? Do our stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end? That is the simplest test you can ask yourself. If you need help getting inspiration, I really recommend following Casper, Manhattan Toy. And if you're looking for someone in B2B, follow my brand. We do this all the time at Soona Studios. Step 3, I want you to use your spend to promote your content as much as your ad campaigns. So a lot of brands that we work with will often have separate sort of delineations between their boosted posts, which is their organic content, and their traditional media campaigns, the campaign spend that they're putting behind their Facebook, Instagram, Google Ads, all of that. I want you to stop putting so much behind the traditional ads and to equally distribute that against your stories and see if we can't get that breakout viral hit by putting more love and financial attention behind your stories. 4, I want you to develop your own events instead of sponsoring existing events. Now, this is changing a lot right now because you have the power in this online world to reduce the cost of putting together an online event. So many events were so expensive to build, and that's why so many brands didn't build them. And I know that this is a difficult thing for folks to embrace, the idea of abandoning sponsoring the big tech events or sponsoring the South Bys or sponsoring the traditional events that we're so used to. But I want you to look at brands like Bumble Biz or brands like Create and Cultivate, or really anything that Kanye West is currently doing, because these are the things that I am amazed to see are so powerful and so interesting for their end consumers, and they allow them to reach new people in new ways. This is an experimentation. This is a choice towards evolving your brand with experimentation. And you can do this now with a simple webinar. Try a webinar, try an online class, try doing some live video content. Any of these things are things that you could do and allocate that spend towards creating your own. 5, I want you to step back and watch for the learnings. And the learnings can look different for every single brand, but some of the learnings that I would really ask you to focus on are those 3 questions we talked about at the top. So these are the questions of what percentage are we doing of safe and what is risky? How does it feel when we shift from sponsoring events to doing our own events? Was this event technically risky for us? And really being honest with yourself about what the percentage makeup is. 2, thinking about what new audiences in this month. Are you attracting new audiences with this shift? How many? What do they look like? What are some of the things that they're excited about? And 3, what was the breakout hit or viral moment? Did you have one? Did changing the story, did changing the evolution of your spend allow you to get a breakout hit of some kind? I have 3 learnings that I always use with my clients to judge our success, which is, did this riskier content pay off? What percentage of our marketing was riskier this month, and did it pay off? How it pays off for you might look slightly different than other businesses, but just to give you an example, one way that we look at it is sales. Did we have more sales? Another way to look at it is, did we reduce the amount of time that someone is spending in the funnel? And I really think that, increasing or reducing the amount of time that someone is spending in the funnel, especially in B2B, is so key. So it might be that what pays off for you is we shaved a week off of how much time people are spending in the funnel. Another question you might ask is, what new audiences did we gain and how? How did we gain them? Did actually shifting to doing your own event help you find a new audience? And can you keep doing that event to attract additional new audiences that are adjacent to that audience or look something like that audience? And are those audience members the right potential customer for your brand? Can your brand actually service them in the way that you hope and therefore expand the reach of your brand? I want you to think about the results of what I'm hoping will be your breakout hit or viral moment. And when I think about the results of a breakout hit or viral moment, I'm not just talking about website visits or video views or content likes. One of the things that it can be kind of a shallow metric and something that folks can over obsess about is, my goodness, we've had so many people who were, joining our brand, who were not the right audience. They were not the right people for our brand, but they visit our website, so we got a whole bunch of new website views. That's not what we want. The results that we want are, we've had somebody, a potentially huge client that has more trust in our organization because we had a breakout hit on a media organization. And having more trust is something that is actually evolving into them spending more money with us. Or it could be, we had all of our existing clients renew their contracts because they were so proud of a breakout hit that we had on LinkedIn. These are the things that are tangible results that move your business forward, that are not shallow metrics. And I want you to really think about the difference between results that you can put on a piece of paper and pat yourself on the back over, or results that actually move your business forward. Finally, and most importantly, let me remind you of the thing that I always think about day in, day out, can't help myself. It's just how my world is. Evolution requires experimentation. Experimentation requires evolution. And so much of what you're doing here, so much of what you're trying here, so much of what you're embracing here is this idea that you too can experiment. You too can evolve. but you've got to be willing to lean into this question. Can we actually evolve through experimentation, or can we actually experiment to find some evolution for our brand? I always like to do two things at the end of my webinars, and one of them is to just create time for questions. So, more than anything, if there's a thing that you wish you could change about your brand, or there's anything about this presentation that was confusing, or the questions that I've asked, I, of course, want you to ask those questions now. You have the ability to do so. And of course, you are also able to offer up anything that you would want to offer in regards to your own organization. Have you done any of these things? Have you tried any of these things? Have you successfully executed any of these things? Because sharing those stories is helpful. So in the chat, raise your hand if you want to share any of that. The second is, if you take that pie that I shared earlier today of the modern media spend and the 5 categories, and you're saying, Liz, we're really struggling to create content in a particular category, I want to make sure that I give you a gift. And so I always try to give a gift at the end of my presentations. You can use my name at soona.com to get a photo or video for free from Soona. So we offer a lot of different services of creating content as a brand. You are welcome to use that code and use it for free. Finally, I'm not seeing any questions, so I'll say thank you, and I'll sort of leave you with this. One of the most impactful stories in my entire career of doing this work is I've been able to work with brands across every category of service. I've worked with brands as large as Facebook and as small as local restaurant groups here in Denver, Colorado, where I live. And time again, everybody has the same challenges. Everybody wants to reach new audiences. Everyone wants bigger sales numbers. Everyone wants to have greater results. But so often we look at the little pieces that, the little pieces of how we are working together, and we don't actually look at the bigger picture of, is our brand telling the story? Is our brand attracting new audiences? Is our brand generating viral moments? Is our brand connecting with folks in a way that you can really think about it? And I want you to know that making that shift, making that change has helped marketing departments of all sizes work better together and evolve the brand in a way that everyone's been proud of. And you can do that too. You are empowered to do that too. I think Thomas has a great point here about how a brand can evolve. He says a clear message of what we are and what we benefit when we if you become a member in the first 15 seconds after visiting our homepage is something that we've done to move the brand forward and evolve. I completely agree. Being honest about your cost benefit to your customers and not muddling it is a way that brands get really clear. That goes back to, do not put spend behind a bad message. Do not put a spend behind a bad story. I get a lot of ads for Masterclass, so I know they put their spend behind really evocative messages that have the potentiality to gain new audiences. So that's a great tip. If there are any other questions, I'd be happy to take them. If nothing else, I'll throw my email in the chat here at liz@soona.co. Feel free to send me a message. And if you'd rather reach out to me on Twitter or Instagram, you can reach me at Liz Giorgi. Giorgi is spelled like George if the E's become I's. So thank you all so much for spending your day with me. I really appreciate it. And I hope the rest of your Mobile Growth Summit is extremely successful and you get a ton of value from everything you learned today.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Hope you have a great day, everybody, and see you in the next session.